Hello there and welcome into NFL Total Access. I'm MJ Acosta-Ruiz. We are 99 days from Tom Brady returning to Foxborough for a Week 4 showdown between the Bucs and the Patriots. But before that, there are several free agents hoping to have a home. For the latest on free agent news around the league, here's our NFL insider, Ian Rappaport.
Well, MJ, usually when you get to June, there's very few big-time, big-name free agents available. That is not the case this year, mainly because teams just did not spend as much money in free agency as they usually do, so a lot of the really decorated veterans decided to wait. Here are a couple that we are keeping our eye on potentially signing before training camp begins or during training camp. One of those, Richard Sherman, the former Seattle All-Pro and most recently of the San Francisco 49ers. He is waiting to join a contender, potentially even waiting to into training camp. This is someone who is not going to want to play for the minimum, does want to play for a contender, and could actually end up waiting for an injury to end up getting the contract that he desires, as unfortunate for someone else as that may be. Certainly Sherman has not given up the idea of playing. Another big-time player, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks, KJ Wright, maybe the most decorated off-the-ball linebacker out there. Doesn't sound like a reunion in Seattle is likely. They want to play some of the young guys, but he does still want to play another person who wants to play for a contender and has waited and waited for the right amount of money, may end up needing, similar to Richard Sherman, an injury to create a hole for some contender that just has to pay a little more for a veteran that they want. And finally, Melvin Ingram, the standout pass rusher for the Los Angeles Chargers. He's actually had a couple visits, which the other guys have not had, at least not publicly. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins, no deal yet, but certainly for a team looking for a top-notch pass rusher, there's not a lot available at this time, so certainly Melvin Ingram would fit the mold in that category, MJ.
All right, Ian, thank you. And here are some other names you might recognize who are also free agents. Lev Bell, Duke Johnson among them there. Justin Houston as well, looking for a team, as well as Malik Hooker. All right, let's bring in the crew for today. Cynthia Freeland, Curtis Conway, and Mark Ross. Hello, everybody. So now that we've seen the free agent landscape, highlighted there by Ian, what's a free agent signing you want to see happen? Curtis, why don't you start us off?
Well, MJ, I'm going to go with a guy that wasn't on that list, and that's Golden Tate. A guy that he's already put 11 seasons up under his belt. Now it's time to chase rings. Want to get a Super Bowl, and I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think that's a good fit for him because with the addition of Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, you got two guys that the defense is going to be focused on. When you have Tate's a slot guy who can do all the dirty work underneath, not to mention they have the best running game in the National Football League. So I can see a guy like Golden Tate fitting in perfectly with the Tennessee Titans.
Well, I looked at that list and I saw KJ Wright as a really big standout. And I think because he wants to go to a contender, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs would be a good fit. They have 2 second-round picks from last year and this year at the linebacker position. Nick Bolton most recently this season. And if you add that to Anthony Hitchens, he would just add a lot of versatility. And he talked about wanting to go to a contender. So for maybe not the highest price because he's 31 years old, this could be a really nice fit.
Cynthia, that's an amazing fit because with Coach Defensive Coordinator Steve Spagnuolo in 2007, we had Antonio Pierce. So I know he loves having a veteran linebacker to be a leader for the defense. But I'm going to go with Richard Sherman to the Dallas Cowboys, reunited with Defensive Coordinator Dan Quinn as he had in Seattle. I think it will be a perfect fit. Dallas drafted a second-round corner this year in Kelvin Joseph. Last year they drafted Trayvon Diggs from Alabama in the second round. He started most of the year last year, but there's nothing like having a veteran to teach young corners or at any position the nuances of the game and especially the system. And it reminds me a bit of 2017 with the Giants. I mentioned again when we had young corners, rookie Aaron Ross and third-year man Corey Webster, but we also had veterans Sam Madison and R.W. McQuarters who could teach those young guys. And players know they love their coaches, but there's nothing like having a vet in that room to help them in the game. So I think Richard Sherman to the Cowboys would be a perfect fit.
I love the blend of the rookies with the more veteran players because then you kind of get the youth and the burst alongside with the veteran leadership and telling them where to go. That has been a proven recipe for success, especially on defense, especially on the inside, and corners obviously can help with that as well.
You know, guys, Richard Sherman, part of that #1 pass defense in San Francisco just 2 seasons ago, en route to a Super Bowl. By the way, Sherm's former teammate, Joe Staley, he's joining the show a little later on. All right, thanks, everybody. And today, the NFL and the Black College Football Hall of Fame wrapped its 4th annual NFL QB Coaching Summit and its first ever Ozzie Newsome GM Forum. Its aim is to identify and develop the next black leaders in the league. So we're going to lean here on our resident former front office executive. Mark, this is a big step. What are your thoughts as a former GM on the inaugural Ozzie Newsome General Manager Forum there?
Well, MJ, this is definitely a cause that's near and dear to my heart. And, you know, the league office has really put a lot of time and invested a lot of money and energy in this, spearheaded by Executive Vice President Troy Vincent, to really have a forum and a conference to try to break down the barriers of mobility that have faced minority coaches and general managers. It really started out as the Bill Walsh Coaching Summit, QB Summit, and the General Manager Summit, the Ozzie Newsome General Manager Summit this year. And it's really threefold, where it's a way to bring exposure to these coaches. Number 2, it's really a networking event for not only the coaches, but also with owners. John Mara, Arthur Blank were part of this, and other head coaches. You know, Bill Belichick and Andy Reid were part of it, and also players. Patrick Mahomes was on a forum. So, you know, the networking aspect of it is tremendous. But also, it's a way to develop the skills of an already talented and skilled talent pool. I think a lot of times when they talk about development, it's like there are no talent in the minority ranks. There's plenty of talent. But it's just honing their skills, and it needs to be exposed. And it's really putting the owners, making them aware and accountable to say, you know, we can't hide behind, well, we don't know they're out there, or we don't think they're qualified enough. This conference, this forum has really been a way to bring all that exposure to light, to say, look, here we are. We deserve a chance. We've been waiting a long time, and let's go.
Something that's not just needed, but that has been spoken about so much, especially over the last few years. Mark, if I can ask, what is your hope now that all of these people have been put in the same room, if you will, after this forum?
Well, MJ, just keep progressing. Yeah, I think this year on the general manager side, we saw some hires, and everybody was kind of happy with the Brad Holmes of the world getting hired. But on the head coaching side, I think there was a little bit of disappointment with Eric Bieniemy not getting hired this year, and not as many head coaches hired. But just each year to keep trying to make progress, take steps forward, bring the exposure, and kind of just break down the excuses, so that at a certain point it can just get down to who is the best, most qualified candidate, and that the minority candidates do not continue to get overlooked. And I think each year we have to take steps, and it's been a long time.
We have a lot to get to, but let's talk about you, my friend. I mean, how has the offseason been for you so far, and what are you doing to gear up for the 2021 season?
Man, I took my first trip with outside the country in a year and change. So I'm just getting back from that. Just had my annual kids camp. I can't call it consecutively annual kids camp because we took a whole COVID gap year. But I mean, just being back in the community, being able to be with 300-400 kids, and throughout the whole day, because I mean we had to break it up in a couple of different camps just to make sure everybody had their proper spacing acquired to COVID protocols these days. But just be back within the community. It sort of just rejuices you. It rejuvenates you. It gets you back to a sense of normalcy. And so when we headed into training, and this whole OTAs, the mini camp that we went through, it's just refocusing on exactly what's important, and that's being the best defensive ends that we can be, being the best D line we can be, and trying to push each other to become a better team.
I love that one of the first things you did was pay it back, give it back to the community. And this weekend in particular, you're going back to where it started pretty much for you. What are your thoughts on now going into the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame? Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, to be in a class with, they say Patrick Surtain, of course, his son is now in the league. I guess that's funny. I get to meet the father and play against the son. You talk about Joe Staley being one of the greats when he was over at the Niners, and being able to play against him, so you know how great he is. And of course, grow up, you watch Reggie Wayne forever. So nothing but the highest respect. So even to be in this same realm of the same breadth of these guys. I'm truly honored, and the sense of pride is sort of running deep right now. And it takes you back to the Senior Bowl. I mean, this was back when I didn't have an agent. This was just, me and my dad roaming around. I was playing, kicking somebody's butt, and he was out there. It was probably like a Boobie Miles moment. It was like, that's my son right there. He can spin, move, pass, rush, cut your back 22 miles and keep on pushing. And then, to be 10 years into this league and be given this honor is quite a blessing in itself.
You posted your Senior Bowl picture not that long ago. You look the same. Exactly the same. Same haircut now, too.
I might be a little skinnier. Back then I was running out of 3-4 defensive end spots, so I was probably like 290-ish. Now, I'm like 10 pounds lighter. I might be a little faster than I was back in the day.
That's it, because you're always improving. All right, so that was a look back in the past. We're talking about the present and what's coming up now. Drew Brees, no longer a member of the Saints, but Jameis Winston, he's taking center stage now. Talk to us about Jameis and what he brings to the table.
Other than the last time he had a full starting season, he threw for 5,000 yards. I mean, his ability to play at a high level has never been questioned. If anything, you knew he was a risk taker. But you sit behind Drew Brees for a year, you're able to pick his brain, and that's one of the two greatest quarterbacks to ever do it. And I'm going to leave it at 2, simply because in my mind I know where he sits. And then, of course, I'm always going to leave room for a little bit of argument. But for him to be able to sit behind him and the mentality that he took with him this whole last season was to get better, was to learn from one of the best. And, of course, you have to add in Sean Payton and his offensive mindset. So for them to have a full year together already gives us a jump on the ball, and I do feel confident in whether we go with Taysom or Jameis. But you talk about knowing what Jameis is capable of, that's exciting.
I mean, boom. And listen, as we shift and talk about your division, not like you guys need any motivation, but yeah, you got to go up against the defending world champions, which I assume you're like, challenge accepted. Of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that squad bringing back all 22 starters, Cam.
I believe they got beat 2 out of 3 times out of our matches here. So their 33% win against us last year was the most important win. So it hurts. And I mean, we're going to take care of that chip into the season. But it's not like they're not able to be beaten multiple times in a season.
I was waiting for you to bring receipts. I knew you would. All right, the Panthers, they made a splash by acquiring Sam Darnold and Christian McCaffrey. He's coming back too. How formidable are they?
Man, I mean, you talk about what Christian McCaffrey is able to do out of the backfield. I mean, our division has 2 of the most dynamic, explosive running backs in the game between CMC and AK. We're just going to leave them as the abbreviations. And honestly, we talk about Sam Darnold and the Teddy Bridgewater switch. I don't know if there's going to be a different level of caliber play there. I do think I think that highly of Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know much of Sam Darnold, but I will know enough soon enough. So I can't wait to figure it out.
He's probably not looking forward to getting to know you in that context. Finally, the Atlanta Falcons, Julio Jones, gone. Are they going to regret parting ways with him?
I think anytime you catch a generational talent like Julio and you watch him leave, I mean, that's going to hurt regardless. But again, they have Calvin Ridley. They have, they brought in the tight end from Florida who was like the greatest, highest PFF grade. I'm not, whatever analytics you want to put to him. But he's a hell of an athlete. So, that, they're going to be well equipped. Of course, you're going to deal with Matt Ryan, who has been an MVP in this league. So they're already weaponized. But to lose a weapon like Julio Jones, I mean, you're going to miss him regardless. Whatever excuse you give out, you're going to miss somebody who can create separation, who can win most of the 50-50 balls, who, runs a 4-3 with a broken foot, etc. I mean, the list goes on for, one of the draft class of 2011's greats.
Cam, we are so excited for you. Congratulations again being inducted into the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame. We're ready to see you work this coming season as well.
Man, I'll say it feels like it's been so long. I mean, it's been so long since I've been in studio. It's been so long since I've played another game of football. I mean, honestly, it's, at this point in time, this is like the part of the season that you start to get like itching to get back on the field, and I can't wait to be able to do so.
It's coming real quick. Thank you, Cam. And since we're getting ready, here's a look at the NFC South standings after the 2020 season. So the Saints, of course, 12-4 with a clean sweep of the division. Bucs were in second place, but hey, they won the Super Bowl. So there's that. All right, crew, come back in here. Join me again. Actually, it's Curtis with me. We're going to hold it down. We know the final standings, but I want to get your 2021 rankings for this division. Start us off with which team is at number 4 in your mind in the NFC South.
Well, MJ, this is a tough one. You know, when you look at this conference, this division, it's going to be pretty tough. But at number 4, I have Carolina Panthers. And the reason why I have the Carolina Panthers at number 4 is it truly relies on what Sam Darnold is going to be able to do early and throughout the season. He's new, don't know much about the offense. How is he going to gel with his offense early on is going to be key. But I do like the draft, bringing in J.C. Horn, Terrence Marshall. These are 2 guys that are going to step on the field and make an immediate impact. So I do see some improvement throughout the season, but right now I have the Carolina Panthers at 4. At number 3, I have the Atlanta Falcons. And you heard Cam talk about bringing in the number 1 guy, Pitts, out of Florida. He's going to be a huge addition, a guy that can move all over the field, inside, outside, create a lot of mismatches for the defense. And Calvin Ridley, he's made a name for himself. He's definitely a number 1 wide receiver. I think these guys are going to step up. And another guy that I like is Russell Gage. He's due to come out 700 yards last year. I think he's going to have a big season this year. At number 2, I'm going with the Saints. And I know they won the division a season ago, but no Drew Brees. But in the National Football League, 5th in points given up and 4th in yards given up per game. So this is a complete football team coming back. It's going to be interesting to see how they do. And of course, at number 1, the Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And here's why. I know it's tough, number 1, to win a division and win a Super Bowl. But you stated earlier, MJ, all 22 starters coming back, not to mention all the coordinators coming back, not to mention the head coach coming back. And the last time a team won back-to-back Super Bowls, I think it was the New England Patriots, and I think their quarterback name was Tom Brady. So there's a lot of things for the Tampa Bay Bucs to be excited about. Not only a great chance of winning the division, but also being able to get back to the Super Bowl.
See where you heard Cam say it right there with his receipts. It's not like the Bucs can't be beat, but with all those starters coming back, it's going to be.
Then another away game in New York against Saquon Barkley and the Giants before a home rematch with Washington.
Cooper laid it over his shoulder, down the sideline, touchdown!
The stretch culminates with the matchup against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, where Dallas has just a 47.5% chance of getting the win.
30-10. Good night, nurse.
The season finishes with a trip to Philadelphia the following week.
And it is intercepted. Come on!
The New York Giants' toughest 4-game stretch begins week 5 with a trip to Dallas to face the rival Cowboys.
Here's Barkley, spins away from a tackle.
The Giants head home for games against 2 teams with new starting quarterbacks, facing Matthew Stafford and the Rams, and then Sam Darnold and the Panthers. The stretch finishes with a game against Patrick Mahomes and the defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs, where the Giants have a win probability of just 43%.
Let's go. We'll look at the scoreboard. Let's go.
The Philadelphia Eagles' toughest 4-game stretch comes early in the season for presumed first-year starter Jalen Hurts, starting in week 3 with a trip to Dallas.
He is going deep down the field, and it is caught.
2 of the Eagles' next 3 games are against the teams who faced off in Super Bowl 55, the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Philadelphia has around a 40% chance of winning each of those games.
It's in our hands, and we got to go take it.
The Washington football team is looking to repeat as NFC East champions.
From picking 2nd in the draft to finishing 1st in their division.
And to do so, they're going to have to manage their toughest 4-game stretch of the 2021 season in weeks 5 through 8, starting with the home matchup with Alvin Kamara and the New Orleans Saints. Washington then faces 2 of the last 3 MVPs as Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs come to town prior to traveling to face Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Assuming Rodgers is a Packer in week 7, Washington is not favored to win either of those games.
I'm not losing. I'm not losing.
The stretch concludes with an always difficult trip to Mile High against the Broncos.
Got the dub.
Whoever can navigate these stretches with minimal damage has the best shot to capture the division.
know everybody was looking at those win percentages, but in the meantime, let's talk about this division a little bit more. Cynthia, what's the most interesting storyline in the NFC East that you're watching heading into training camp, especially since you broke down all these numbers for us?
Well, it's a lot of numbers, that's for sure. But one more number I'm looking at is what is Jalen Hurts going to do, especially on passes of 10-plus air yards? The next-gen stats show that last year, on those 10-plus air yard attempts, 9 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That's the Eagles overall. That's not so good because 10-plus, that gets you a first down. You're going to need some first downs and, 40.3 reception percentage on those. That ranked 30th in the NFL last season. These are areas they need to improve. You got to pass the football. I want to know what's going to happen at the quarterback position.
Cynthia, that's a good one, but I'm going to go down in Washington with the Ryan Fitzpatrick experience down there with, so as a talent evaluator, Ryan Fitzpatrick has always been a little bit erratic when you watch him on film, but I'm going to go with your route, Cynthia, and just give you some numbers. He's 38 years old. He's been in the NFL 16 seasons on 8 different teams. He has 30 more losses than wins and 0 playoff appearances. So this is intriguing that Washington, who I think is going to have the best defense in the NFL with the addition of William Jackson in free agency, the corner, and the first-round pick linebacker, Jamin Davis from Kentucky, will be the best defense in the NFL, that they decided to roll the dice with Ryan Fitzpatrick winning them the division and making playoff wins. And Cynthia, it just doesn't add up for me, those numbers.
Guys, for me, it's the players that are coming back from injury, and 2 in particular, Saquon Barkley for the New York Giants. You're talking about a guy who's probably the most important piece of his football team, missing 14 games last season, and right now we're hearing that he probably would come back somewhere around week 2. I'm hoping he takes his time with this because I know as a former athlete, we get very antsy when we feel like we're ready to go and step out there a little too early. I hope when Saquon takes the field, he's 100% and he's ready to go because that team needs him. And the other guy is Dak Prescott, another guy that is very important to his football team, the QB. When you talk about guys like that, both teams went 6-10 last season. Washington won the division at 7-9, but they actually won the division. So with that being said, one game away from winning the division, you add those 2 guys back to their teams, that's an easy, to me, 3 wins for both teams. So that puts Dallas and New York back in the hunt to win the division.
New storyline. Seaway gives everyone maximum anxiety talking about these injured players returning to the field. Can we not look good vibes only, all right, at this point? All right, everybody, thank you. And listen, as we talk about game theory here tomorrow, Cynthia puts her game theory to the AFC East. You can read and share more at NFL.com/game theory. All right, let's catch you up on the latest headlines from around the NFL. So today, the NFL and the Black College Football Hall of Fame wrapped its 4th NFL QB Coaching Summit and first ever Ozzie Newsome GM Forum. Its aim is to identify and develop the next black leaders in the league. Packers wide receiver Davante Adams says he and his teammates don't talk about the Rodgers situation. Adams telling Fox News everybody is dialed into what they have to do. There hasn't been any negative talk, and they are behind their quarterback. Tom Pelissero reports NFL players have until next Friday, that's July 2nd at 4 Eastern, to tell their teams if they're opting out of the 2021 season. So players considered at high risk.
Joe Burrow's going to have Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and now this is a true #1 wideout in Jamar Chase.
Saw another theme here, Sin, not just Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, but the top 3 guys here all reuniting with their college QBs. Definitely helps. All right, so for the full article, head to NFL.com/Freeland. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, we want to know your thoughts on this, so head over to our NFL Total Access page on Twitter and let us know who you think will be the most productive rookie wide receiver this season. There are your choices. We'll let you know the results later in the show. Right, he played alongside Jimmy G in San Francisco. Now he gets to watch the drama unfold in the city